Let's talk today about getting the most out of the ground. I have a few detectors here. No, I'm not having a garage sale. I'm just going to show you a few coils here and a few detectors and show you the reasons why I have these coils on these detectors. And I'm going to show you how to increase your odds to get the most out of the ground. There are so many variables and factors that go into getting the most out of the ground and to getting your detector to perform for the day, or getting that coil to perform for the day. Temperature, humidity, your mood, your detector, your coil, the ground conditions, the angle that the sun is at, what kind of shoes you're wearing, and really what kind of shoes you're wearing does affect how many targets you can get out per day. But there are many different factors, but I'm going to explain 5 factors that really are effective at getting the most out of the ground. And sure, you're going to dig a lot of trash. Every detectorist digs up trash. You have to, because that's what the goodies sound like. Goodies sound like trash. And I'm going to show you a few coils here and a few detectors, and I'll start with the MX Sport here. I'll come around to this side here. The sun is kind of in a weird angle today. I got the MX Sport, I have the V3i, the MXT All Pro, the Simplex 277 with the SP24 coil on it, and I have the Simplex version 0267, which is one of my favorite detectors I've ever owned, and with a stock coil on it because it only has one available coil for it, and the 278 with the SP24 coil on it, and I have the Amphibio multi with the 7-inch coil on it, and that's my favorite coil to use on the Amphibio because it really gets a lot of jewelry, and the Knox 800 with the 6-inch smart coil. And I'll start with the Simplex. I have thousands of hours with this coil right here and the 7-inch double D coil. These two coils, I don't have that coil, the 7-inch coil, because I gave it to Jim. He uses it on his MX7, and the Sport coils only fit the MX7 and the MX Sport. And I have that 6-shooter here. I'm not really too big of a fan of these 6-inch concentric coils on both these coils here. I'm not really too big of a fan of them. And we got the stock coil here, just so heavy, very, very heavy coil. I've used this for quite a few hours, but I mainly used my 7-inch coil and my 6x10 coil on the MX Sport just because they perform very well. I've used the 13-inch double D coil quite a bit too, and for my MXT All Pro and the DFX, the XLT, the V3, V3i, VX3, MX Tracker E Series, the 300, all these coils fit that series of detectors, and it fits a few other ones too. It's been so long since I've used all these coils here on my Whites machines, but the Spider coil here, and I'll show you something here about the concentric coils. Let's see where they all at here. Concentric coils here. Concentric coils. The concentric coils, the shaft positioning is far off to the edge. It's not in the center of the coils like the double D coils. You know, the double D coils have all the shaft positioning. Even this one. Even this one is a little bit off-centered. See? Just a little bit off-centered. And what it does is you have all this weight on the beyond the fulcrum point, which is the shaft coming out of the coil there. You have all that weight, really makes for a heavy coil. And the same with this 950 coil. This is the coil that I've used the least amount because you have to swing so far. If you have a target down there, let's say that's the target right there, that little bush right in the center, you have to swing a long way to get that beep. And a double D coil is you just this far, right, to pinpoint. Just rotate on your target. With the concentric coils, you have to swing a long ways. So it's actually a lot more work with the concentric coil, and they're heavier because they have that fulcrum point on that coil. You got a lot of weight on the end of that shaft there, just weighing it down a lot more. And now I'll come to the Amphibio here. You know, these coils are pretty much self-explanatory, right? These older coils that I got for the Whites machines, and the Simplex, this 277 version, and I do have the batteries for the rechargeable batteries for the V3i and the MXT series. I have a lot of rechargeable batteries for them, the battery packs, because you're going to spend a lot of money. If you have a machine that's older and you have to put AA batteries or 9-volt batteries in it, it gets very expensive, man. I've spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in batteries in the last few years. With the newer machines, you know, they compact a lot more, and they have internal lithium-ion batteries. All these newer detectors have lithium-ion rechargeable batteries, and I don't have to spend the money on the batteries, and they're compactable. You know, they're lightweight and they're compactable. These older machines are just so huge, man. It's hard to carry. It's hard to carry those in and out of your car and up the stairs, you know, because I have my detecting room is upstairs, and if I have these longer detectors, man, it takes me a while to get upstairs with the longer detectors. And the Amphibio is so great because I have all these coil options for the Amphibio, and it's just amazing what your coil selection can do to your finds, man. I've been detecting for a lot of years, and coil selection is one of the most important things you can do to increase your odds at getting the most out of the ground. And with the Amphibio, there's 8 different coil options. I have used the Amphibio or the Cruiser, the KR28 coil, the stock coil for the Cruiser on my Amphibio, and I've had no problems with it. You know, some people have said, oh, it's not compatible because it's 19 kilohertz. You know, I've ran it in 20 kilohertz and it's just fine. I've gotten a lot of deep relics, a lot of silver, a lot of rings, a lot of jewelry with the KR28 coil on my Amphibio. So, you know, I've used probably this coil the most on my Amphibio, and this one I've used a lot in the dumps. It's a double D 5-inch double D coil, and it just slaughters the dumps. If you have a lot of nails, like around homes, or if you're working in a site that has a lot of nails in it, or a lot of small bits of iron, this thing is deadly. I mean, I've gotten so many relics with this small little double D coil. It does really good in the super trashy areas, extreme trash. And so does this one. I like using this one next to fences, get jewelry out. And this one is a good all-around coil. The spider coil for the Amphibio, you know, I really haven't used it a lot because, like I said, you know, it just makes it so heavy. The Amphibio is a 3.7 pound machine, and with this coil here, it just seems to make it a lot heavier because you got all this weight outside of the shaft here, and it wants to go up like this. You know, it wants to go up like that. When you stand up after you dig, it wants to go up like that, just for some reason. So I'm always having to push it down, you know, push my coil down, and it just takes a lot extra time. I'm not digging when I'm moving my coil around. And the Cruiser coil, this is a really good all-around for like the curb strips and whatnot. It is a lightweight coil, but you know, it doesn't go very deep. It doesn't go nearly as deep as the 11-inch coil, the stock coil for the Amphibio. But this coil is just so heavy, it makes the detector seem like it's a very heavy detector. And I'm gonna show you the Equinox here. The Equinox only has 2 optional coils that I have right now. I'm sure there are bigger coils for all these detectors, you know, actually not the Simplex, but there's large coils out there, especially for the Amphibio. You know, there's these huge satellite dishes. I'm not into big coils like that because I swing fast. I want to find the hot spots with my smaller coils, and it's a process getting the targets out of the ground. You know, I start with my smaller coils first and then work my way up through the years. You know, each hunt I'm hunting a lot with the same coil over the same site over the same areas, and then I move up to a bigger coil or a larger coil and just work my way up to the largest coil and get all the trash out. Not all the trash, because you're not going to dig it all out. I'm just trying to find the hot spots with my smaller coils, and once I do find those hot spots, I'll get most of the surface stuff out and then get deeper. And that's how I get deeper, is I just put a bigger coil on, because you can't just go into a site and just start plucking out deep relics in a bunch of trash. You have to get through that trash. You have to extract some of that trash out with those smaller coils, pinpoint them, and extract them out of the ground, and then come back later on and get those deeper targets out of the ground. And here's the Equinox here, the 6-inch, excuse me, the 6-inch smart coil is an awesome all-around coil. It really goes deep, and so does the 11-inch coil. It goes, I would say that they get through the trash about the same. Maybe the 11-inch coil does a little bit better in the trash, believe it or not. I don't have thousands of hours with the Equinox, but that's what I've figured out, that that 6-inch coil, you can swing so much faster and find those hot spots. That's what I'm talking about, finding the hot spots and then just hitting the hot spots over and over and over and over again, extracting more out. And I may buy the bigger coil for the Equinox. I'm not really sure right now. They're just so expensive. The coils are so expensive for the Equinox, and the Equinox isn't nearly as a durable machine. There's a lot of comments on my channel about the durability of the Equinox, and I understand, and I relate with that. The Equinox is really not a super durable machine, but it is superior, man. The performance of the Equinox is so amazing, but the durability, it just lacks in durability, and it lacks in the coil selection, right? You don't have a biggest selection of coils for the Equinox, so that's like a huge downer for me, not being able to swap coils out. And there's 5 things that you can do to increase your odds at getting the most out of the ground. Number 1 is your coil selection. Straight up, after all these years of metal detecting, swapping coils out is the most effective way to get different stuff out of the ground. You can hunt a site 100 times and with the same coil, and you're limited on what you're going to be finding. Once you swap a coil out, you'll be amazed on what you can find different with just a simple coil swap. And there's a few other things that you can increase your odds. Number 2 is changing your detector, right? Because sometimes your detector's not going to perform in certain sites, or it's not going to perform on that certain day, because every day is different. You can go to a site 100 times, and every day the site is different. The conditions are different. Your mood is different. Maybe your detector, your coil is different. And if you just change detectors, that can really increase your odds too. And number 3, there's another factor or another variable that you can change, is changing your location. Some days sites are not going to produce very well for you, no matter what coil option or what selection of detector you're using for that day. Sometimes the sites just do not produce, so just move to a different location. Just go to a different site, and because you want to increase your odds at getting stuff out of the ground. If that site's not working for you for that day, if you you're not feeling it for that site, just go to a different site and get the most out of the ground for that day. Because another site may be producing. So just if you go to another site and it starts producing, that's what can increase your odds. Just go to a different site. And number 4 is your pinpointer. Having a pinpointer that's going to perform for you when you need it to is extremely important. That's why I carry 2 pinpointers, and I actually carry an extra pinpointer in my truck with me, because pinpointers are the same way. Sometimes I have TRX pinpointers. I use TRX pinpointers mainly. And sometimes that pinpointer, they're exactly the same pinpointers, right? They're exactly the same model, exactly the same pinpointer. And sometimes the pinpointer, one pinpointer is just not going to perform on that certain hole or at that certain site. So I'll just use my other pinpointer for that target. And the pinpointer, if I don't have batteries for my pinpointer, or if both my pinpointers die for me on that day, I'm going back home, or I'm going to a store and I'm buying batteries for my pinpointer, because it's not fun digging without a pinpointer, right? You all know, if you're experienced in metal detecting and you don't have a pinpointer, you're screwed for the day. You're pretty much screwed. And the number 5 reason to increase your odds at getting the most out of the ground is your selection of shovels. I bought this Predator Phoenix shovel about 2 years ago, and this shovel is absolutely amazing at digging plugs. And to increase your odds at getting more out of the ground per day, that's what I'm saying, digging as many targets out as you can per day. Even though a lot of those targets are going to be trash, but still you're increasing your odds, because one of those trashy targets may be something good. And having a shovel that's not going to make a mess. I've talked about that several times in my videos. Cleaning up your mess takes time. So if you're making a bigger mess, it's going to take you longer to clean up that mess and make it look right. And when you're cleaning up your mess, you're not detecting, right? You're cleaning up your mess. And if you have a detector, or if you have a pinpointer that's going to perform for you very well, or if you have a detector that's going to perform very well, you're taking less time on cleaning up your mess. And throughout the years, you learn how not to make a mess, and to make it go faster cleaning up your mess. But if you cannot make a mess in the first place, if you have a really good shovel and you can pinpoint that target precisely and know exactly how deep that target is, you're making much less of a mess. And like I said, if you're making less of a mess, you have more time to detect, not cleaning up your mess. Hopefully you guys are cleaning up your mess and you're covering your holes and making it look right, like you've never been there. There's hopefully you guys are cleaning up your mess and not making it look like somebody was detecting there. Well, there's a little video about increasing your odds at getting the most out of the ground. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.